Today I will be showing this. This is a high performance race car that is also aesthetically well made. This is the RS.T Clerea 1.4, and it's the first color model, which is just black. I have other race cars under a similar name to this, that look different. A lot of these are inspired by LMP1 cars and LMP2 cars from things like 24 Hours of Le Mans and others. But this is one that, in my opinion, handles the best. Now, one thing to note about these is these are not simple. They do not use springs for suspension as taking corners. Things like the rotational forces springs can generate can come into play, and just stiffness issues. So I'm using just parts on controllers. Now, the entire thing is all-wheel drive, and it has 6 wheels. You can't really make a rear-wheel drive car performance. I did it once and it was quite difficult. But all of these use a triple bearing mechanism. I have quadruple bearing cars. On those, the other side of the wheel has to be held, and I haven't really experimented with higher bearing count yet. On this one, the steering mechanism is moved closer toward the actual point of rotation of the tire. If I can show here's a quadruple bearing car. I have to hold it on either side, and on this one, the steering is further back and it has to be much larger, because the forces acting against the tires, if it was just one bearing, you would not be able to keep them pointing straight. They would be like moving forward and backward because it's just too much. But this one's taking a lot of inspiration from like LMP1 and LMP2 cars, and this one particularly, and some of the others within its type, like Formula 1 cars, with the things like the little grooves to like direct the air away from more complicated structures that would cause drag, like the mess of internals that this has, and the wheels. Of course, Sky Mechanic, there is no aerodynamics. There's just a general resistance that's put upon blocks that I'm pretty sure scales linearly with speed. But enough of the explanation. We can actually take a look at why it has 42 bearings in it and 4 pistons. I gave it some gull-wing doors to be nice. As with all of these cars, number 1 activates a set of thrusters to keep pressure with the ground, because it really cannot have any traction without that. Number 2 activates the second speed, which will do this if you're not holding W. Number 3 opens and closes the door. Number 4 is headlights. Number 5 is the headlights and the rain lights. And number 6 is some supports that will come up when the car needs to be like serviced, like in a pit lane. It is very difficult to drive. You can go very fast, as it's supposed to. I've been working on cars like this for well over a year now. What really encouraged me to build cars like this was constantly seeing people racing with something like single bearing cars that always relied on thrusters to try to get any speed out of it, which really disappointed me. You know, a lot of the cars are really small, they're really simple, and it's just disappointing to see. So I spent a very long time, about 2 months, 2 or 3 months, working on this series of cars, improving, changing little things, making them better, making them lighter, making them look nicer, to eventually get to this, you know, rough design. I've certainly made faster cars, but these certainly, well, handle the best until right there for what they look like. Because I went around on the workshop one day trying to find some race cars, and also like on YouTube trying to find good performance race cars, and they all claimed they were, but you know, either the person demonstrating it was trying to test them on a dirt track, which is obviously not ideal. Oh yeah, these cars are first person friendly. You can drive them in first person. One downside of having so many parts is that if it really, like, jams itself into a wall, or if it gets close to another car like this, the frame rate will drop dramatically. And in the case that this has, like, a collision with another car like it, it can bring you below 1 and 2 FPS. So, some words of caution. I won't be uploading this to the Steam Workshop as of now. Maybe like a couple weeks later I might. One thing I would like to touch on is things like taking someone else's work and claiming ownership for it is something that means a lot to me, and I will not risk that happening with these by any chance, since as far as I can tell just from searching, these are firsts. There aren't really any other cars like this. As with a lot of the work I try to do, because I spend, you know, weeks working on these. This is what I'm working on right now. I have the front done to some degree. You can see what I'm trying to hide here. A lot of circuitry. This, the back isn't done. But one thing I can show is the doors. I had another car with doors that opened like this, and it didn't do all that great. Oh, I forgot. One thing I should add. One thing I should most certainly add. This one, and just with all these cars, there are 2 body panel sets, and there's a frame, and they're usually connected by things like this that are marked with pipes. Again, like real LMP1 cars, there are little like clips on the corners where you can take off the body panels to get to the internals of the car, like if something goes wrong. And likewise, you can do that with these, and you can see all of the internals that go into these. Now, when you do this, obviously it's a lot lighter and it's a lot faster, and you can get to your top speed much quicker. But the steering becomes really touchy. You would have to tone down the downforce by the thrusters a lot, and it just makes it more difficult. It just makes it harder to drive. But yeah, most of these cars you can do this with. I try to keep some consistency with these. Excuse the debris on the track. That was from things like collision testing. But yeah, it's certainly lots of fun. And, you know, as soon as I can, I will try to get multiplayer footage of these cars. And also, I'll show this when it's done. And that'll be it.